Hi, welcome to another edition of Organizational Research Methods. Today we're going to look at Mary Parker Follett. She was
Hello, I'm Mabel, and today I will be speaking about Follett and her main concepts. She has several, but today I'm going to focus on 5. And so her main purpose was to focus on order and the human progress to achieve human well-being. She was really influenced by the Gestalt school of thought, and I'm studying the systems approach of Mary Parker Follett, and my project and my field of study has to do with the conflict of Wendy's Corporation and the farm workers who pick tomatoes. I'll be back and tell you about her 5 main concepts.
Mabel and I are walking down the street with Grace Ann Roselle and some other colleagues. We're in a march at Ohio State University protesting Wendy's.
Mary Parker Follett has 5 concepts. Number 1, constructive conflict is having conflict work for us. What can conflict do for us? Number 2, power over is having control, complete control over someone. Power with is having, working together with people, being at the equal ground. Number 3 is law of the situation, where both parties obey the law of the situation so no one has power over another. Integration of differences is bringing out the differences and desires of both parties so that they can be out in the open and being able to be discussed. And finally, number 5, circular behavior, which is putting out whatever you put out there as behavior will come back to you. This is because I cannot fight you, because then I will be fighting you plus me. Thank you.
Mabel Sanchez, can you tell us a little bit about your project in systems theory?
Of course, David Boje. I went to a boycott against Wendy's at Columbus, Ohio, where the Wendy's headquarters is, and I was able to learn about the CIW, Coalition for Immokalee Workers. So then I went to Florida, Immokalee, Florida, and was able to interview several of the coalition members, where we learned about modern day.
These are about 600 to 800 students and faculty marching to protest slavery, working conditions at Wendy's.
So today I would like to ask you how I could relate this to Mary Parker Follett's concepts.
I'm so glad you asked. I mean, it's pretty easy because they do something called ensemble leadership that Grace Ann Roselle and I have written about, and Carmen Clow also. And it's the idea that you have integrated participation, you have a lot of relationality among different groups. So in Immokalee Workers Coalition, they're working with faith community, they're working with students. We'll show you a video in a few minutes where students were fasting and tried to go into Wendy's, deliver their demands. And so they're bringing pressure. So it's a positive use of conflict, bringing pressure on Wendy's to come to the table. They've already got, as you know, let's see, Taco Bell, McDonald's, Walmart's, Subways, Sodexo, which is on our campus, and they've all agreed. There's about 12 big players already have all agreed to do fair food programs. These are the courageous Ohio State University students that are walking into the Wendy's to deliver their petition for Wendy's to end slavery in the tomato fields in Mexico and start sourcing in the fair food labor in the United States with the CIW, Justice for Food, Fair Food Program. It seems reasonable to me. Tell me anything about this fair food program.
This Fair Food Program has its employees going directly into the fields, interviewing farm workers, so that they can verify that these organic labels on food products and other labels are actually being done, or these things that are needed for these labels are actually being implemented in the field. And so it's this narrative right from the worker.
Okay.
And so that would be probably power with, because everyone
Okay.
is at the same level. Everyone's narrative counts, and it could also be integration of differences, because it's
Okay.
bringing these the workers and the farmers, bringing out these differences. How would you think?
I think it's really reasonable for these people who have been fasting to try to deliver a petition, and very unreasonable for Wendy's management to not even look at the petition, not accept it. We'd already protested at the corporate headquarters of Wendy's here, and so far there's no movement, but there will be. Eventually, the number of consumers will grow, the number of faith people, the number of students, and Wendy's will turn its head and look at the slavery situation in its own corporate supply chain. Next, she was very interested in developing Alfred North Whitehead's notions of process, specifically the process of becoming in space and time, very concrete grounding. The technical word is concreescence. That means grounding in space and time. I think it's wonderful. I have another question for you.
Okay.
What is modern day slavery? I mean, is there really slavery? Is this like African slaves? What kind of slavery are we talking about?
Modern day slavery is disguised with wages now, because they do get a wage. However, they go about, they use power over by hiding a lot of things that are actually going on. And so Mary Parker Follett, this would be power over, and it would be just the, it would not, it would be hiding all these facts. And so that is a way to maintain control of the employees, and they work under these awful conditions that are hidden from the public. And so
what kind of, are people really locked up and chased with guns and beaten and raped? Is this true or not true?
it is true. It is true for farms that are not part of the CIW, the coalition, because there is no way to keep track of other farms. But yes, through the interviews we did, we were able to find out that guns and actual slavery, because they are brought, a lot of farmers are brought from another country, usually Mexico, and are kept in this hotel until they pay their fair share of bringing them over to the U.S. and
Is it a fair share, or is it like $1,000?
it's an amount that they will never be able to pay off. And so this is why
Okay.
it's considered modern day slavery, because they're enslaved forever.
Okay, you asked me a question.
How would Follett, I guess, approach the situation of the boycott that CIW did against Wendy's?
Oh, I believe she was, in her day, a consultant to companies that had extreme labor conflict. And often they'd send out goons, and they would get lawyers involved, and there would be just, no meeting between the two sides. And she wanted them to have dialogue and interaction. Now, she thought conflict was positive, and I think CIW has an end game where they want the brand companies, like McDonald's and Walmart, etc., to be on board with fair labor and fair food program. And that's what their end game was. And so they're trying to get them to come to the fields, see what's going on, understand the difference between kind of a public relations monitoring program that like Nike Corporation does, and a real program where there's monitoring sexual abuse, sexual language, unfair wages, wages withheld, making the baskets too full of tomatoes instead of a proper amount, making them come early to work and not paying them or staying late, you know. So different kinds of abuses are now under control if you have a real, you know, one of the things I really like is this idea of the consciousness plus commitment equals change. Who told us that?
Lucas usually uses this in the presentation or the introduction of the coalition, and he has this formula, C plus C equals C, which is what you just said.
Consciousness plus commitment equals change. So I take that to be building a consciousness of the situation and a commitment to fair food and justice for farm workers, as your thing says, and you know, boycotting Wendy's until they have some commitment and they change and get with the program. You know,
I would relate consciousness to what Follett calls circular behavior, because it's creating this awareness that anything that you do does get back to you through the reaction of the other person, thing, place, and so whoever you're fighting, you're not only fighting them, but yourself as well, as it's this circular behavior.
yeah. So that's it for the systems theory course today, and we'll be back next week. We're going to look at Martin Heidegger's work and how he approaches the dialectic. Today the dialectic was Mary Parker Follett, who was influenced by Hegel, and Whitehead, and Dewey, and James, and Peirce, and very democratic system, process of becoming. And next week we'll look at how Heidegger has taken Hegel and turned him in a different direction. Thank you.